Okay, so welcome to my second video in this three-part series covering the three major regions for R6 Esports for Stage 2 of 2024. So, as you can see, this video will be going over the North American League. So, again, very similar structure to the last video, where first we're going to go over my predictions from before the stage. So, the first thing I'm going to bring up is I remember in my prediction video for saying that the teams in my top five in my predictions, I felt that any of those five teams could get first place. Um, so I just rated them off of how they previously played. Cloud9 Beast Coast, I put them in first place because they won the major. Definitely, and then they definitely stumbled by not qualifying for Esports World Cup, but I thought they would, have a nice comeback. But as we'll see later on, they kind of fell short. Again, similar for M80, I also put number two. My main reason being with probably the highest salary roster in the world, you can't really afford to not have the team go to events and not place well. So, and then DZ, Sonics, and SSG. All three of them. Like I said earlier, I was like they could place. Uh, each of them could place anywhere between 1 to 5 probably. Just because of how I thought that each of these teams that I predicted in the top five would like all be like just close matchups against each other, and there'd be a lot of parity between these five teams. And as you can see, those five teams that I said would be in the top five, place in the top five in the group stage. Not exactly how I predicted. I predicted C9BC and M80 to be in the 1 and 2 spots, and then they were in the 4-5 spots with DZ, SSG, and Sonics occupying the top three spots after the group stage instead. But as you can see, very, very tight race here. All four of the top five teams all had 5+ wins, and then M80 also had just a ton of close games um, that they couldn't close out in some. And then they had like M80's roughest loss. They lost to Luminosity in regulation, and Luminosity went 2-6. So that was a pretty rough one. I don't know. Recently, Luminosity have just kind of had like M80 in a chokehold. I don't know why specifically Luminosity, but it's just I think it's just the way Luminosity play. It just really works well against M80's like heavy execute preference, especially on attack, where like LG play to disrupt a lot of M80's execute. So, and I think that really with lots of micro plays, I think that really screws with M80 every time they play them. So, yeah. Now for playoffs, um, wildcard ended up being the sixth placing team, so they also ended up qualifying to playoffs. Um, they got first rounded in the playoffs, but so did Cloud9 Beast Coast, which was probably the biggest surprise to me. They got 2-0'd in playoffs in the first game. Um, but after that, the playoffs went pretty much how I expected, where I had an inkling that Sonics and Dark Zero would likely play in the final, and they did, and it was probably one of if not the best North American League games ever played. That final. If you just want to watch some good Siege and you haven't watched the recent Sonics versus Dark Zero match for that um, North American League final this stage, go watch that match. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but that was a good ass game. Uh, and then in the third place match for the last major spot through the playoffs, SSG ended up 2-0 M80. And again, similar to Wolves here, having two shots at the major, but ended up failing in the playoffs in both times. And their match against SSG, I feel like SSG is a much worse matchup than for M80 than Dark Zero is. They definitely could have closed out that DZ game. I remember with map 3 that M80 was up, I think 5-2, and then DZ won I think 5 attacks in a row. I believe, to win that map of, I think it was Clubhouse, which was map 3. So yeah, a rough game from M80. So this is our final standings, where we had Sonics, DZ, and SSG going in top 3, and then M80 Wildcard, C9BC, Luminosity, and Oxygen all go down to the LCQ, with Los going to the open qualifiers. So, and then for the last chance qualifier, this last chance qualifier was so good. There was the SSG Academy took a map off of M80 in the first game, and it looked scary for M80, but M80 managed to close it out. Then we had what seemed to be the resurgence of Oxygen after beating Luminosity and M80, and then we had Wildcard as well. Um, After the end of the playoffs, they started slowly looking better and better. So I thought they were also a team to look out for. And then we all now know, of course, we have the Cloud9 Beast Coast fall off and the rise of Challenger League for life. So pretty much everyone's surprised, though not completely, because in my mind, it for this first game here for Challenger League for life versus C9BC, if CL4L won that game, in my mind, I was like, I remember watching that game. I was like, if CL4L win this game versus C9BC, I was like, there's a very real chance they could actually go to the major. Because for me, that was probably their hardest matchup, um, in this entire bracket. I was like, if they can make it out of that, they could go all the way, and they did. So it was completely insane. So now we have our first tier 2 team making a major since, it's been a while. I think Eminem was that. It might be Eminem. I think it was Eminem in like 2022. I can't remember which major, but it was before Eminem became a tier 1 team. For a while they made a major, I believe. So I think it's since then. So at least 2+ years. So, and then for NA as well, like first tier 2 team that's made an international event since like Parabellum, I think, at SI 2021, I believe. So yeah, like huge from the CL4L boys, and hopefully they get picked up for the major by an org. So these are our major attending teams. We got Sonics, DZ, SSG, and then Challenger League for life. So now for our team awards. So the most surprising team to me was the underperformance of Cloud9 Beast Coast. They weren't completely terrible, and I mean they won 5 games in regulation in the group stage, and they didn't look horrible by any means, but yeah, still a rough way to go out in the end, where they got first rounded in playoffs and then first rounded in LCQ. So yeah, for the most overrated team, I mean, I feel like I have to go with M80. I rated them as the number 2 team, and they went to similar to Wolves, to like so close to making the major but not, and then getting bounced out by Oxygen, who went 1-8 in the group stage, in the LCQ. So very, very hard losses for M80 there, and I definitely personally overrated them. And I mean, I feel like I always have to overrate M80 though, just because like the talent on the team though. I can't really justifiably put them below, I mean, in my mind, 4th as like their floor in my mind. So for me, the most underrated team, it was kind of hard. It felt like most of the teams I felt I rated pretty well, but I kind of just gave it to Wildcard, and this would probably go to Challenger League for life, but they're not a tier 1 team that plays in NAL, and this is even though they do play in the North American region, but they don't play any of the official tier 1 leagues. They only played in the LCQ because they qualified for it through the open quals. So this is why I don't have any of them in like my awards for anything, because they're not technically a tier 1 team, even though I would put them here if they were in T1, but I put a wild card here just because I kind of like they were better than I thought, even though I think I had them rated as I think I rated them 7th actually, and in my predictions, and then they were a little better than 7th, and as the stage went on, they looked progressively better, and it was slow, but they looked better um, at the end of the stage than the beginning of the stage. Now for my clutch team of the stage, I had to give it to DZ. It felt like just like everybody on DZ was just clutching out of their minds, um, especially like NJR and then Bolo. But like every DZ game, they were just doing wild, crazy, um, insane, impossible seeming clutches that in no way, shape, or form should have happened, but happened. Especially in that grand final match on border with NJR. That was I don't know how he won that one round, but if you haven't seen that round, definitely go watch it. um, and then for worst roster changes, now I would have only had Luminosity here, but today M80 decided they wanted to be here as well. Um, and these teams are both here for the same reason, where in my mind they both dropped a player unnecessarily, and they just dropped the new guy basically because they didn't play well. They basically said, "Oh, we're bad. Blame the new guy." And then Wooz got dropped for Luminosity, and then Hyper got dropped today. Um, as of making this video, I think it was probably like 10 hours ago now. But yeah, he got Hyper literally just got dropped. So which is crazy too, because they made their SI qualification post, M80 did, and they had Hyper still on the image, and then I think he got an added Hyper announced he got dropped like 2 hours after they made that post, which was insane. So yeah, I just feel like both of these players are just kind of getting blamed for their team underperforming, and I don't think either of those players deserve to be dropped. Um, especially Hyper, because he just got put on, he got put on roles that he's never played on before too. So, and he played pretty well um, on them, and then for best roster changes, I mean, I had to give it to Sonics and TZ as well, because I mean they both made roster changes that everyone was looking at as like insane, and probably nobody thought would happen, especially after Canadian got let go by DZ. But both these changes have seemed to benefit both these teams, especially Sonics. So Sonics went from a struggling middle of the pack team to the number one team in the league, and then DZ have just looked as good as they always have, basically. Though Kobe hasn't been playing amazing, but he's not been playing bad. But the rest of the team has still been playing very well. So yeah, both Sonics and DZ looking very good after their roster changes. So yeah. So now for my player awards, my MVP of the stage has to go to Ambi. Um, I think he went like plus 50 on KD this stage, and played out of his mind in the final. I think tying the online BO3 kill record at, I think it's 55 kills. So yeah, absolutely insane stage from Ambi, and this is the stage that I've been like waiting for Ambi to pop off, because I knew he could do this, and I've been waiting for it to happen, and it finally happened. For my most improved player, I feel like I had to give it to Grixer. Grixer went from being benched by Sonic's last stage to probably being like the one of the better players on Sonics alongside Ambi. I mean, to be honest, everyone on Sonics outside of Canadian had a very good rating. I don't think anyone expects Canadian to have a good rating just because like the role he plays for his teams these days. So I feel like I just had to give most improved to Grixer because I mean, like I said, he went from being benched to being like one of, and just to the reason below as well, the most clutch player on the team as well. Grixer had just a ton of clutches this stage. So now for best rookie, this is between Kobe Lax, Bay, and then Woos. And as for me, just had to go to Bay. He felt like the most the most impressive rookie to me, being put on a team that wasn't really sure what their direction they wanted to go. Besides, they wanted to pick up some younger gunners to make their playstyle more faster, I believe. And Bay definitely helped with that. He wasn't the best rated player on Wildcard, but out of the three rookies, he was the best rated, and he definitely had a good amount of highlight moments with Wildcard. So I feel like Bay deservingly gets the best rookie of the stage. Now, for my underrated player of the stage, I have to give it to Kino. It just felt like ever since Kino got benched last year, he's been displaying a lot better this year, and his mental looks much improved as well. And he's always making the right plays for his team. Um, and he also looks improved on his shield play as well, which is also good to see because that was looking real rough last year and even last stage. So I just feel like Kino has just gone under the radar for the past little while now, and is definitely one of the important backbone pieces to the M80 roster, and one of the reasons why they are always in contention for making big tournaments. Now for overrated was really hard for me to decide, and I feel like I just had to go with Hyper, um, even though I know he didn't play the rules he wanted on the stage, and um, he definitely got like scapegoated a little by basically just being blamed for not making the major. It feels like because he got dropped. I feel like this came at a really bad time because I put him in overrated um, before the news of him being let go came out, because well he didn't really he played all right this stage. He didn't play great, but I didn't for overrated too. Like I'm not gonna put a bad player on a bad team in overrated because we already know that team is bad anyways. So why highlight the worst player on the worst team, um, the worst performing player numbers wise at least that is. And I mean, and I don't know. Even for me myself, when I saw that M80 were picking up Hyper at the beginning of the stage, I just felt that um, I I would get what I wanted to see out of Hyper. Plus when Hyper was playing in the like Element 3 qualifiers, I think I felt like he was dropping like I don't know double digits every game, sometimes like 15 in game on like every team. Of course on completely different roles, but yeah, I mean, hopefully all this does as I don't think Hyper is a bad player by any means, and if Hyper sees this for some reason, I just hope this pushes you to continue to be better because I think everyone knows how good you are and how good you can be, and that you probably just more in the right situation, right environment, perhaps. So yeah, it just felt like Hyper might have been my only option to play here. But the only other player I was thinking about to put in overrated was Kobe because I mean he was like he was getting a lot of hype and deservedly so before the season started, and he just played all right. But I didn't really want to put a rookie in overrated right after their rookie stage. Plus, he had a very similar rating to Hyper. Um, but I could have put Kobe here because he definitely had more frag oriented roles than Hyper did. While Hyper was playing a lot of like mute and thermite, not all the time, but definitely he was playing a lot of the mute and thermite. I remember. So yeah. Now for my all NA pro team, this one was hard. I feel like there were a lot of players I could have put on here. But I had to put two players each from the two top teams because they made these teams just seem so evenly matched. So I put Ambi, I mean highest rated player on the best team, um, again as well, plus 51, I think 51 KD, this stage, and absolutely went insane in the final to take home the 60 something thousand US dollars, as well as the first seed at the Montreal Major. Surf as well, another one of the most like underrated pickups of the stage, and on those more supportive roles for Sonics, but like always just he's just been playing so well on those roles. Like I just always felt like if Surf was alive still, especially on defense, there was just always a hope that Sonics would win the round because his positioning is just always like perfect basically, and he always knows where he needs to be to win those clutch situations, and he's also even planting the bomb for Sonic sometimes while putting up a positive KD with a good rating. Um, Now for Pambazoo, I put him up here. He similar to Ambi, him and Ambi were going for blow in that final match, and Pamba also had like an incredible stage, especially compared to his last stage in an A where he just played all right. He had a very good stage with Dark Zero, and again NJR. I just feel like NJR has been like top 5 in NA for at least the last year or 2 years now, at a minimum. I just feel like he's always good, um, always consistent. You can always trust him to make the right play for the team, and he plays those bitch roles that nobody else wants to play too as well. So, and if there's anyone you don't want to peek on DZ, it's going to be NJR. So, and then for my fifth player, I had to take Spoit. Even though they didn't qualify to the major, I just felt like individually, Spoit's just always putting up the numbers for M80 and always trying to push them as far as he can. And it wasn't enough this stage, but I felt like Spoit just deserves a spot on the team because of how well he has been playing this past year and specifically this stage as well. So I have a special little shout out slide too. I feel like I had to include this, but of course, since Challenger League for Life made the major over 5 tier 1 teams, they beat 5 tier 1 teams in the open calls and LCQ to make the major, and somebody should please sign them. So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in this video, and the next video after this should be covering Brazil. So yeah, again, if you like this video, feel free to let me know, and also feel free to subscribe. And yeah, see you in the next one.